Just to extend the last couple of points that you were saying, right, about how quickly existing enterprises can assemble their enterprise primitives and they recreate new product service opportunities, right? Now, if I use that, it takes me to one of the, an old problem that we have been talking about for ages and decades about time to market, right? So we always heard that, the expense-based strategy has been faster and cheaper, while what you are talking about is an asset-based approach, which always perceived to be, better in the long term, but expensive and time-consuming in the context of short term. Do you see anything changing there? Do you think your framework is helpful there, or we are talking about everything in the long term?
Well, one thing is, whatever you're doing, my observation is, if you're not producing and accumulating primitive components, if you're not accumulating them into inventory, you're never going to be able to reduce the time to market to very short periods of time. If all you're doing is writing code or trying to get implementations and you're not building primitive components, you're always going to have more of what you have, okay? And the ability to create complex objects is limited extremely. On the other hand, if you can begin to accumulate an inventory of reusable assets, then you have an inventory. You can create the implementations dynamically. It's what manufacturing would call mass customization. You create custom products, mass-produced, in quantities of one for immediate delivery. But you have to have something in inventory. But you don't have to have everything in inventory. That's the mistake people make. Because I never said you had to have the whole inventory created. You have to have an inventory of the primitive components you need to address a specific issue from a general management standpoint at the moment. And if you create those primitive components, I'm going to tell you that it's not mysterious what they are. You can look at the framework graphic, and at the bottom of the cell, it tells you what the primitive components are. And you just populate whatever the cells are that into your repository that you need to address the general manager's problem, and you can solve that problem in very short periods of time. And when you get done, you have the beginning of an inventory of primitive components. And by the way, if you can solve a general manager's problem, you'll have no difficulty getting additional resource to do whatever architecture or time you need to do architecture work. The general manager is going to be really happy. Say, hey, here's a blank check. Keep doing it because I got another problem and another problem and another problem. So as we iteratively and incrementally solve the general management problem, the building up our inventory of reusable assets, it will be amazing that you can, once you get some inventory, you will solve more than one problem.
Right.
In any case, there won't be a problem getting whatever resource or time you need to continue working on the architecture.
John, what you're saying is very different from what I always thought. What you're saying and what I'm hearing you right now saying to me is that even an asset-based strategy could be valuable in a short-term period. Is that what you're saying? Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, you don't need to have all the architecture for the whole enterprise to solve the specific general management problem. But you need to use the primitive components to solve the general management problem. That's what you need. You need to understand the ontology. If you do not understand the ontology or the Zachman framework, you're going to end up with more of what you have. It's not going to. And you can write code and get a few lines of code to work and to run, and that's really good. I would never say don't do it, but that's not creating reusable assets that can be assembled into any enterprise in the future. You've got to begin to build out the primitive, reusable, single variable inventory of assets. That's what you got to get into place. And you can use before you have all the complete enterprise architecture models produced. You don't need all of that to solve the general manager's problem. That's one thing we've really learned very well here in the last several years. With a limited set, a subset of primitive components, you can address a general management problem and get solutions in place, which buys you the time and the credibility and the resources to work architecture from now until whenever you want to keep working it.